Hey everybody, Uncle Rich here. Hey, today is July 29th, and this is show number 23. And today we're gonna dedicate to the 1%. Why? Because of the gas prices. Have you seen the gas prices recently? What's going on? It's like it went up 20 cents in 1 week. Could it be the unrest in Syria? What could it be? You know what I think it is, guys? I think it's the 1% taking advantage of us. They're trying to squeeze us for everything. They squeeze every nickel out of us they can get. Take us for a ride. Today's the 22nd? It really is? Man, see, I'm so far ahead of the curve. You know, it's lonely at the top. It's lonely. Regardless, the price of gas, what's going on? And I mean, quite honestly, I just think we're being exploited. I mean, I think it's unfair. I think it's ridiculous. And you know, the oil companies, the most profitable corporations in the country, they can come up with any lame excuse they want why the price of gas is the way it is. Because you know what, guys? We don't have a choice. They got us by the Galaducci's and they're squeezing. And one of the reasons why they're starting to get upset is because they're starting to realize that they're going to lose control. When we start to put solar panels on our roofs and we start to put up windmills and we start to take away the control, we start to loosen up the noose, guess what? They start to say, hey, fellas, we got to protect our phony baloney jobs here. And this is what it boils down to. You know, then they want us to go send our kids to go fight, you know, to protect this oil crap and shit. We ain't going to fall for it anymore. All right, now, you know, we always like to start the show. You know, I like to tell you what we're going to tell you. And tonight, this week, I was fortunate enough to pass the Tesla refueling stations that I've showed you guys earlier, and there was a car actually refueling. So we're gonna see our first Tesla live. And I tell you, you're not only gonna be blown away, you're gonna be impressed, you're gonna be blown away. When you see this thing, and when you see the candid conversation with the truck driver there, I tell you, you're gonna get a kick out of it. And then, tonight we're going to get a double dose of George Carlin. George Carlin at his best. And we're going to get him to rip a new one about the 1%. And we've done this before. We've had Carlin on before. And, you know, I don't want to be repetitious about things, but you got to remember, there are new people that are joining us each week. So some of these people haven't had the opportunity to see some of the older shows. Oh, I want to give a shout out to my buddy William. I spoke to William again today, and he's starting to have a little bit of faith in me. And guys, William wants to help me get a website set up. And really, and by getting a website set up, we'll be able to cross-communicate. You guys can ask questions, you know, ahead of the game on the show if there's something that's bothering you, you know. And the one thing that I'd like to talk about in the near future is health care, is Obamacare. And, you know, just the other day I was watching Fox, and I tell you, they just the way all they want to do is create doubt. And just the way they did it, and I forget who it was, but, you know, it doesn't matter who it is on Fox. They're all a bunch of Foxstitutes. It's like a relay race. They just pass the baton, one to the other to the other. And the one guy says, Obamacare is a train wreck. Doctors are quitting. People are dying in the hallways. I'm saying to myself, what, are you kidding me? And I say the one thing that we ask, the only thing that, where are you getting your information from? Who told you this? What sources? And you know what, guys? While this was going through my mind, the guy that was putting out the spiel, slipped and he said, I got this off an English blog. And I said, an English blog? Is it the same blog that told us global warming hasn't been happening for 16 years? That guy? So anyway, we're facing an uphill battle, but I do know somebody that formerly used to work in the health field. As a matter of fact, she did medical billing. So perhaps, maybe with a little persuasion, and maybe with some nice whatevers, I can get her to look into this. Because I have a feeling with Obamacare, especially for people like the small working guys that are in their own small groups, when they get put into the big group with Obamacare, I think you're going to start to see that the premiums are going to drop. The bigger the class, the more people involved, the less the premium. But that's another story for another day, because today we want to take care of the 1%. I mean, they're involved with the Obamacare and everything, and I think one of the problems is with Obamacare now, 80% of the money that's spent on premiums has to go towards the people, has to go towards the facility and the patients. It can't go towards the profit anymore. They're limited in profit, and I think that's why they have such a beef with Obamacare, and especially the fact that now the hospitals have to release what they charge for an operation. And why does a tonsillectomy in hospital X cost $5,000 and in hospital Y it costs $50,000? Now they're being called out. They don't like it. They're starting to lose control. And you know what? It's not that we're taking anything. We're just being fair. We're being fair and we're being just. And we're saying, listen, fellas, we're not going to let you take advantage of us anymore. We're not going to let you exploit us anymore. Those days are over. From now on, you want to play ball in our court, you play by our rules. It's that simple. All right, so we're going to forge ahead after George Carlin. We're going to talk about the billionaires and the 1%. And guys, sometimes the 1%, that term's a misnomer. It's really not the 1%. It's the 0.00001%. There's only a few families that really control what goes on in America. And we're going to show you who they are. And their name ain't pronounced Koch either. So anyway, we're going to get to them. We're going to have fun. And then we're going to go back to an old clip that we showed you from Senator Bernie Sanders. You know how he exposed the Heritage Foundation, the Cato Institute, all the think tanks that the Republican Party and the conservatives pay dearly for to mislead the American public, and we're going to show you how they do it. We're going to show you beyond the shadow of a doubt, and we're going to let them prove how wrong they are, and you can be the judge. All right, and then we're going to talk about ClimateGate, supposedly what's ClimateGate. And we're going to show how the lead scientist, Richard Mueller, the chief denier, how he has done a complete 100% reversal on his stance. And he had to give the information to the Koch brothers. And fellas, they spent a lot of money for the survey, and they aren't happy campers because the guy finally called a spade, and he finally said, hey, we have to admit, global warming is happening and it's man-made. All right, so anyway, now you know the itinerary for the show. We're going to go back with what we always start with, guys. We're going to get patriotic for a minute. We're going to show you the American flag. There we go. Oh, glory. And what's the one thing we want when you look at that flag, and John, if you can come back to me, what are you supposed to do when you see that flag blowing in the breeze? You scooch the guy next to you and you say, hey, what's that up there? And when they look and they see the flag blowing, it's free energy. And why aren't we harnessing that free energy? Why aren't we capturing it? Why aren't we taking advantage of the things that we have for free? And the solar power. John, do you have the clip where the solar spill with the solar billboard? If you could put up the different solar clips, because I don't think a lot of people have had a chance to see most of them. But I think, there's the one. Look at that, guys. Can you? I love it. This isn't a billboard, it's a power plant. And guys, it's so true. It doesn't matter what you put solar panels on, they all contribute to the grid. And John, what's the other billboard that we have up there with the solar spill? When there's a huge solar energy spill, it's just called a good day. And guys, you know, we want to solarize Danbury, and I'm going to tell you what the mayor said in another minute. But yeah, the mayor kind of let us down when it came to the solarization program, guys. And I'm not going to throw any stones yet, because it's a little too early. But I left a message with them today, and I sent an email. And Judy and Dave were in the office last week when I got a call from Roger Palanzo. And Roger Palanzo promised me that they were in contact with the people from Solarized Connecticut from the Cephia Foundation. The people at Cephia said they don't know nothing. So like I said, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. There could be mistakes, all right? But let's get back to that flag one more time, because there's the one other thing that I always like to mention. Guys, you know, when you see that flag blowing in the breeze, the one thing we'll never have to do, we'll never have to send our kids to go fight wars for solar or for wind. I mean, we'll keep them right here in our backyard, and they can have a lot of fun putting solar panels on roofs and making a living and contributing and making a living wage. All right, now let's forge ahead. Let's have some fun now. We're going to go, now this is on I-95, and it's exit 12. This is the Tesla plant, the Tesla recharging station that I showed you about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Well, guys, it's up and it's complete, and there is a Tesla being charged. So let's take a look at it. So John, if you roll it. All right, here we go. And this is, we're at the place, this is exit 12, not exit 5 like I said earlier. And here it is, the Tesla. Let me try to get the Model S here. Now it doesn't look like they have the jump seats in the car. There are the 2 back seats. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not. Well, here it is, guys. The charging station. The only thing is, I don't know if it's I don't see anything. Tesla! It's a Tesla! All electric. It'll beat any car on the road. A Porsche 911, a BMW, in a quarter mile, it kicks ass.
What's that run?
At 100. Well, no, between 60 and 100.
It's called a what?
What's that?
What's it called?
A Tesla. TES. See that charging station? Right. It's free to charge from now on. You put solar panels on your roof. You charge your Tesla. You don't care if gas goes to $100 a gallon.
That must be your car, huh?
No, but I tell you, I do a show. Here, when you get home, I do a show called Who's Telling the Truth with Rich Frascone. And if you go to show number 17, it's all on, it's all on Elon Musk. He's the one that invented it. But I tell you, this is gonna...
I thought it was a Maserati.
No, this is gonna be what the Model T was 100 years when they come out with the Model X.
I'm surprised they even let them build that.
I tell you, you're looking at the future. Good seeing you. Take care. What a beautiful car, huh, guys? That's all it takes. See that, guys? Just by me being there, and the fact that I happen to have a card in my back pocket, which I always carry when I'm on the road, and the fact that I gave it to him, and who knows where he was going. Was he going to Massachusetts? Well, who knows where he was going? But you know one thing? I know he's going to watch that one YouTube show, and hopefully he'll become a subscriber. And I want to thank everybody that's been subscribing, because I tell you, it's like every day I get like one or two, and it really makes me feel like I'm really accomplishing something here. I mean, it really does. All right, now and guys, I have to use this term, but the girls in the audience don't like it. But I'm gonna say, but I want to bada bing the 1%. All right, so there, I'm getting away with it. All right, but anyway, we're gonna start with George Carlin. And John, this is a little tricky because in the order I have George Carlin number 3 and there's George Carlin number 3A. But we're going to start with the number 3, okay? And this is George Carlin. And believe me, as soon as he starts to speak, you'll get the idea. Go ahead, John. Hit.
There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks. And it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they get by a system that threw them overboard 30 years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want retirement money. They want it back, so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later, because they own the place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. And by the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hard-working people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hard-working people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich suckers who don't give about them. They don't give about you. They don't give about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and being jammed up every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Okay. Well, they see that light doesn't work, so it always gets me mixed up. See? But guys, what he's talking about is willfully ignorant. And how many people are like that? And why do you think we're surrounded by question marks? So that when somebody says something, you say, no. Where did you get your information? What are your sources? Who told you that? All right, now we're going to go to the second clip by Carlin, and you're going to see George Walker from Wisconsin with Diane, I think it's Fredericks or Henry. It's in the clip. And you're going to see what the 1% wants to do to turn Wisconsin and probably the rest of the country into a right-to-work state. So, John, if you can hit us with part 2 of George Carlin.
You see, despite a lot of the rhetoric we've heard over the past 11 days, the bill I put forward isn't aimed at state workers, and it certainly isn't a battle with unions. If it was, we would have eliminated collective bargaining entirely, or we would have gone after the private sector unions, but we did not.
Pro-business and giving better incentives, of course, but you know what? Hey, Governor Walker.
How are you? Good to see you.
Oh,
Thanks for having us.
thank you for being
Hi,
here.
Mary Wilmer.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you, yeah.
Any chance we'll ever get to be a completely red state and work on these unions?
Oh, yeah.
And become a right to work?
Well, in fact, the
What
big thing
can we do to help you?
Well, we're going to start in a couple weeks with our budget adjustment bill. The first step is we're going to deal with collective bargaining for all public employee unions.
Right.
Because you divide and conquer.
That's the way the ruling class operates in any society. They divide the rest of the people. They keep the lower and the middle classes fighting with each other so that they, the rich, can run off with all the fucking money. Fairly simple thing. Fairly simple thing. Happens to work. Anything that's different about us, you know that's what they're pushing at you. Racial differences, religious, ethnic, national backgrounds, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality, anything they can do to keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank. You know how I describe the economic and social classes in this country? The upper class keeps all of the money, pays none of the taxes. The middle class pays all of the taxes, does all of the work. The poor are there just to scare the shit out of the middle class.
Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer.
All right, so we're back to here with the no lights. All right, guys. But I lost my train of thought. We got to stop going to that camera without the light on it because you make me crazy. All right, but anyway, so we saw Diane Hendricks there, and you could see what they want to do. You know, they want to create right-to-work states. And the right-to-work states, and the reason why they want to create them is for one thing. And John, if we could put up this graphic, this is what I always say about the 1%. The 1% are rich people paying rich people. And the rich people that they pay are the TV broadcasters, the Foxtitutes on Fox. So you got the rich people, the 1%, paying rich people to convince the middle class to blame everything on the poor and the immigrants. And it's just what George Carlin said. The poor people are just there to scare the hell out of everybody. But guys, it's getting to the point where we got to stop with the deception. Stop being misled by the billionaires. And now we're going to show you how they do it and how the Koch brothers and the other guys in their little tribe of 1%ers go ahead to mislead and deceive the average Americans. So, John, if you can hit the next clip, roll it.
It's a movement that is sweeping the nation all across the country.
Hundreds of these protests across the country and may involve millions of people.
32% of the candidates who were elected last night across this country are affiliated with the Tea Party movement.
5 years ago, my brother Charles and I provided the funds to start the Americans for Prosperity.
We helped organize huge tea parties all throughout the state.
We've held 29 tea parties, dozens of tea parties, led the largest tea party in the nation on April 15th.
The Koch brothers, Charles and David Koch, are now the fifth richest persons in the country. They're both worth about $20 billion. They deliberately founded these groups to intervene in government. And now you have very motivated people willing to fight for what they think is rights for themselves, but in fact is forwarding a corporate agenda.
They're trying to push socialism in this country and take our freedoms away. We're not standing for it.
We're against socialism in America. We stand for the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. We want our freedom.
It's a Marxist regime, basically. The Obama administration, the Democratic Party is going totally to the left, so extreme now.
He is a communist. He is a racist. He is worse than Hitler.
There is a tacit opposition there between free enterprise and communism. And it's no accident that this serves the interest of the health insurance companies, the petrochemical interests. It suits them fine.
I think it's a serious threat to our democracy, and I think people are very much unaware of how their thoughts are being manipulated and how their actions are actually being manipulated in many cases.
We are here at our own expense, in our own interest.
This is not some corporately sponsored thing.
And they're not going to stop. They've now elected people to come to Congress that want to dismantle the government.
This is essentially deception on a massive scale. Yet, these people have a perfect right to do it and hide their involvement in it. There seems to me to be something wrong with that.
Guys, did you notice how many of the signs were against socialism? Did you notice? What a lot of people in this country don't realize, we're the greatest socialistic society that's ever existed in the world. The United States of America is a socialist country. That's right. What makes us socialist? Think about the $2 trillion in the Social Security Administration. Everybody chips in. Some people pay more than others, but everybody pays. So when people tell you we're not a socialist country, just say, oh yeah? Then what am I paying Social Security for? Bada bing! You stop them dead in their tracks. What about the police departments, the fire departments, the library? What about everything? We all do things socially. We're social people. This is what we do. But the 1% doesn't want it to be social. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. It's like when they have a pizza party. If they ordered a pizza with 100 slices, they take 99 and leave one for everybody else. All right, but wait a minute. We're not going to let up now. I mean, we got them on the ropes, and we're going to keep going. But like I said, eventually, we're going to talk about the climate deniers, and we're going to show you how they have to reverse themselves. So, John, let's go to the next clip, and let's put a little more salt in the wound. Roll it.
What the Koch brothers want to do is destroy Social Security, because Social Security is a federal government program that has been enormously successful. The Koch brothers are funding think tanks and other organizations which are spreading an enormous amount of disinformation about Social Security. Raising the age of retirement is to ask people who are banging nails or waitresses or so many blue-collar jobs out there that you got to keep working until you're 70 years of age. That's just really unfair. Second of all, we want to give the younger generation an opportunity to get out into the workforce. The Koch brothers fund organizations, and you have economists and political scientists working there. And they are very, very good in getting on television.
Raising the retirement age.
I would increase the retirement age.
So you will probably have to increase the retirement age.
We're probably going to have to raise the retirement age.
And people will not know they represent an organization which is heavily funded by corporate interests. They are very effective in getting their positions out into the media.
Should Congress raise the retirement age?
If you raise the retirement age.
Well, raise the retirement age.
Let's consider the options. Let's raise the age. Raising the retirement age to 69.
At the same time, the Koch brothers are putting huge amounts of money into campaign contributions.
Very modest increases in the retirement age.
And eventually getting the retirement age to 70 is a step that needs to be taken.
The age on Social Security will have to go up.
So you have an echo chamber which starts repeating a lot of misinformation. The Koch brothers are funding study after study which suggests to people that Social Security is going bankrupt. Social Security is not going broke. Social Security has a $2.6 trillion surplus.
The program is actuarially bankrupt.
Social Security and Medicare, they are going to go broke.
The real risk is Social Security running out of money.
Social Security going bankrupt.
Social Security already bankrupt.
Social Security is going bankrupt.
The system will be bankrupt.
Bankrupt federal programs like Social Security.
Social Security is going bankrupt.
Social Security is already running bankrupt.
The Koch brothers want to privatize Social Security to invest your retirement funds on Wall Street. And you may lose all of your retirement savings when you get old.
Real security is based on personal accounts with real assets.
I like the idea of personal accounts.
The option of investing 1/3 of their Social Security payroll taxes into personal retirement accounts.
The Koch brothers' job is to do everything they can to dismember government in general. And if you could destroy Social Security, you will have gone a long way forward in that effort.
You know, guys, when you watch Fox, you'll see, earlier when I spoke about it's like they pass a baton. You see what I'm talking? It's an echo chamber. And a lot of times when I'm watching them in the morning, I'm saying to myself, who wrote the news? Was it the Heritage Foundation? Well, which think tank wrote the news? Because the average guy, when they write news, they don't write news politically with a political agenda. So who's writing the news at Fox? That's what I want to know. And why are they such climate deniers? And in the next clip, we're going to really show you how they make their amazing climate change denial. And this will be the Koch brothers. And then we're going to show you the reversal aspect. So, John, let's run the next one, number 6 with the Koch brothers. And then we'll go to the reversal.
This is Charles and David Koch, oil barons with personal fortunes of over $21 billion each. But perhaps their greatest achievement is helping convince the world that global warming doesn't exist. In the early 1990s, a scientific consensus began to emerge that burning fossil fuels, such as oil and coal, was changing the Earth's climate. In order to protect profits, these industries devised a plan to reposition global warming as a theory and not fact, and designed what a recent Greenpeace report dubbed the climate change denial machine.
It's a network of corporations and think tanks, front groups, who try to lie about the climate science, stop policies that will solve global warming. Of all the dirty energy money that's coming into Washington trying to influence policies, Koch is the worst. Koch is the largest donor, and nobody's ever heard of him.
The denial machine works like this. As citizens, we generally don't trust what energy industry representatives tell us about climate change. But we do trust these messages when given to us by experts or by our peers. In 2007, Koch paid scientists to publish a bogus study that polar bears weren't being affected by climate change. They've invested millions of dollars, turning George Mason University into what Mother Jones magazine called a haven for climate deniers, and even underwritten denier conferences. But while the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change brought together over 600 authors from 40 countries for their latest report, renowned skeptic Steve Malloy admits that his side is vastly outnumbered.
It's really amazing, and it's really sort of a band of about 25 people, I guess, maybe a few more. And most recent polls show that more people feel more strongly on my side than on the Al Gore side.
So how has such a small minority overcome an almost total consensus among climate scientists? Here we come to the true genius of the denial machine, the echo chamber. In order to give the impression of a genuine scientific debate, the Kochs have funded dozens of supposedly independent think tanks, whose army of staffers disseminate this doubt throughout the media and launch coordinated attacks on real climate scientists. They've created Americans for Prosperity, who poses concerned citizens.
A stop in Wichita today for a national group on a hot air balloon tour.
The hot air tour, a rally against what organizers call global warming alarmist legislation.
They fund business groups, women's groups, college groups, seniors groups, and even church groups, while adding to the chorus of climate denial. Add to this the tens of millions the Kochs have funneled into lobbying and political donations, and it's not hard to see why no political action has been taken. The denial machine, it can't change the science, but its brilliance in shaping public opinion has helped the Kochs' income soar, while the rest of us get taken for a ride.
Guys, once again, what are they trying to do? They're trying to create doubt. That's all they want to do. They want you to think that the science is unsettled. Well, it is. 97.3% of the climate scientists writing peer-reviewed articles agree that global warming is happening. That leaves 2.7% that say it's not happening. Fox wants you to think it's a 50-50 split. The Koch brothers want you to think the science is unsettled. They're right, it's unsettled. It's unsettled this way. The odds are so astronomically against them, but yet what they do is they just want to create doubt. And what do? They address the people, the simple folk that are willfully ignorant, the people that don't ask questions. And that's why we're here, to raise awareness and to ask questions. But you could see, it's all starting to make sense. And we're not disproving anything, we're letting them do it themselves. All we're doing is we're showing you the videos, and you're being the judge. All right, now the next part, this is great, because this is one of the 2.7%, and he's going to emphatically state that climate change and global warming is not happening. So let's watch him when he's on the 2% side, and then we're going to see when he converts to the 97-point side. So John, if you can roll the next one, we're going to watch Richard Mueller.
Now what about the climate gates? The scientists have now been exonerated, acquitted, not guilty. They did get a wrist slap. They deceived the public, and they deceived other scientists. But they did nothing that was immoral, illegal, or anything like that. What did they do that deceived the public? This is in the report, this is in the review, not the charts. But these are the data as they published it on the cover of the World Meteorological Organization magazine. These are the data that many of my fellow scientists at Berkeley use. They say, well, you know, the public may not understand graphs, but I do. And look at this. Here's the temperature for the last 1,000 years going over the place. It's not actually temperature. We actually measure tree rings and and corals and things, but it's a proxy for temperature. It goes all over the place. Then look what happened recently. Zoom. That's clear and incontrovertible. The public may not understand this, so I have to now lend my prestige to this. I'm a professor of physics, and I will now go and tell people that global warming is clear and incontrovertible because I have seen the actual data, and it is. And unfortunately, a lot of my colleagues have behaved in this way. In their paper, if you dig into it, they said they did some things with the data from 1961 onward. They removed it and replaced it with temperature data. So some of the people who read these papers asked to see the data. They refused to send it to them, the original raw data. They used the Freedom of Information Act. The Freedom of Information Act officer, on the advice of the scientists, would not release the data. Then the data came out. They weren't hacked like a lot of people say. Most people who know this business believe they were leaked by one of the members of the team who was really upset with them. So now I can show you what the data that they refused to release, the original data, before they did anything. What they did was, and there's a quote. A quote came out in the emails, these leaked emails, that said, let's use Mike's trick to hide the decline. That's the words. Let's use Mike's trick to hide the decline. Mike, who's Michael Mann, said, hey, trick just means mathematical trick. That's all. Now, and my response is, I'm not worried about the word trick. I'm worried about the decline. What do you mean hide the decline? Let me show you this. Now we have the data. Now it's been released. And this is what it is. That's the raw data as any Berkeley scientist would have published it. He would have said, okay, we've had the medieval ice age, and now we have global warming. And there's some disagreement, but hey, there's disagreement all over the place. And that just shows the technique isn't completely reliable. What they did is they took the data from 1961 onward, from this peak, and erased it. What was their justification for erasing it? The fact that it went down. And we know the temperature is going up. Therefore, it was unreliable. Is this unreliable? No. How do we know? Well, we don't know. But, you know, this is probably some human effect. The justification would not have survived peer review in any journal that I'm willing to publish in. But they had it well hidden. And they erased that, and they replaced it with temperature going up. And let me show you how cleverly this was done. You get back to this plot. There it is. They added the same temperature data to 3 different plots, giving you the illusion that there are 3 different sets going up. And they smoothed it. This temperature changes smoothly. If they hadn't smoothed it, you might have noticed, oh, wait a minute, what's the change going on right there? Why is it abruptly different? But you don't notice that because it's smooth. But smoothing is legitimate in their minds because the temperature change is not discontinuous. So that's what they did. And what is the result in my mind? Quite frankly, as a scientist, I now have a list of people whose papers I won't read anymore. You're not allowed to do this in science. This is not up to our standards. I get infuriated with colleagues of mine who say, well, you know, it's a human field. You make mistakes. And then I show them this. And they say, no, that's not acceptable. Now, here's part of the problem. The temperature I showed you before, this one, of the 3 groups, I picked the one I trusted the most. Guess which group this was? Yeah, the group that hid the decline. So we have Jim Hansen, who predicts things ahead of time, what he's going to find. We have the group here that feels it is legitimate to hide things. This is why I'm now leading a study to redo all this in a totally transparent way. Okay.
Okay, so anyway, that clip went a little bit longer than we expected, but what he's doing there, now this guy he's a credible, I think he's a physicist, but I mean, he's up there, he's big. So now he comes up with this hide the decline, and everybody jumps on it. I mean, everybody jumps on the bandwagon, and now we're going to see Hollywood at its finest. But I want you to keep in the back of your mind exactly what Richard Mueller said, and keep in mind the graph, how he kept changing the thing on the graph going up and down, because after this cartoon, we're going to show you the real truth. So, John, hit us with Hide the Decline.
Making up data the old hard way, fudging the numbers day by day, ignoring the snow and the cold in a downward line. Hide the decline. Michael Mann thinks he's so smart, totally inventing the hockey stick chart, ignoring the snow and the cold in a downward line. Hide the decline. Hide the decline. The climate gauge, I think you have sealed your fate. I hope you do a lot of time, 'cause what you did was such a crime. Hide the decline. Hide the decline. The tree ring data was very thin. You should have chopped more trees instead of hugging them, ignoring the snow and the cold in a downward line. Hide the decline. Hide the decline. Hide the decline. Climate gate, I think you have sealed your fate. I hope you do a lot of time, 'cause what you did was such a crime. Hide the decline. 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 Hide the decline.
Hide the decline, hide the decline. Good old Tommy James and the Shondells, right, guys? Hey, it was beautifully done. I mean, it was very, very well done. You see what the 1%'s money will buy? So now you got all the simple folk dancing around, hide the decline. Will they ever look to find out what's right and what's wrong? No, they won't. That's why we're here. You know, that's why we do what we do here. Now, I asked you to keep in mind the scientist Richard Mueller, because now we're going to come back to him, and this is a Koch Brothers funded study that didn't go their way. But you know what? Will they be men enough to admit that global warming is happening and that they're going to have to use some of the profits from the corporation to eliminate the problem? Will they ever admit that? We have to make them. It's that simple. Now, we're going to show you what happens when a climate denier turns and becomes a warmist. So, John, if you can hit us with this, we'll let the video speak.
There is broad scientific agreement that global warming is happening and that we humans are at least partially to blame. But there are some very important scientific skeptics. Last week, in the opinion pages of the New York Times, one of the most important of those skeptics did a public about-face. Richard Mueller is a physicist at the University of California at Berkeley who until recently doubted the existence of global warming. Now, he says, it's real and humans are almost entirely to blame. How he came to this change of heart or mind and why is fascinating. Welcome, Professor Muller.
Thank you.
You say in that piece that all scientists should be skeptics, and I think you're right. I remember Niels Bohr once said that every statement should be taken by a scientist as a provisional hypothesis that has to be tested. So what made you start doubting your original skepticism? What made you look at, what evidence convinced you that something real was happening here?
The issues were so large that about 2.5 years ago, my daughter and I began a major scientific research effort in which we recruited a dozen of some of the top scientists in the world, including Saul Perlmutter, who won the Nobel Prize last year, well after he joined our team. So we felt there were questions that were valid, questions about data reliability, about data adjustment, about the choice of the stations which had been used. These demanded attention, and I couldn't get the answers. Only way to do it is to do the study ourselves. So after a great deal of work, largely done by Robert Rohde, who I can't compliment enough, his superb work in data analysis, which we all carefully participated in, about a year ago, maybe 9 months, I came to the conclusion that, yes, global warming was real. Then, over the last 3 to 6 months, Rohde was able to extend the record back to 1753. We now had a really long record, beginning before the American Revolution, when Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson were the ones taking the data. With this long record, we could look for the signatures of the various possible causes. We're able to rule out solar variability, able to rule out volcanoes. They had an effect, but it was short-lived. When we tried fitting it to see whether it looked like carbon dioxide, it was right on. It was a shock to me that how well that carbon dioxide curve fit our new temperature data set.
So when you look at the historical data now, is it fair to characterize the situation thus, that ever since the Industrial Revolution, human beings have been pumping more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and that increase in CO2 has been having the effect that we call global warming?
That is my viewpoint on this. You can't prove it. It's always possible that something random is happening that just happens to match the carbon dioxide data, but it leads me to conclude that essentially all of this warming over the last 250, 260 years has been caused by greenhouse gases emitted by humans.
Now, do you also worry about the potential effects that this will have on life on Earth? Because a lot of people talk about global warming, and then they say if it gets to a certain point, the higher end of the UN estimates, you could have very significant coastal flooding. You could have kind of unintended consequences or sort of follow-on effects that